Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website by, for, and about baby boomers. Thanks for joining me tonight as we do a quick review of some practical matters like living with high inflation, which is what's going on right now, perhaps even on a fixed income, but how our attitude can make a huge difference. So let's get started. But first, of course, we have, as always, the regular reminder. I'm not a medical professional, and I'll be talking about things that I personally find useful and helpful. If you find yourself feeling truly hopeless or depressed, please seek professional help immediately or just dial 911. Also, starting July 16th, 2022, and it's available in some areas now, dialing 988 should connect you with immediate assistance. So good to know for yourself or a friend. Keep that in mind. So, inflation's all over the news and it's clearly visible, right? If you go shopping, it's in the stores at the gas stations in particular. But what exactly is inflation? And so simply, it's when prices start to increase, right? Usually because the cost of materials or the cost of labor or other inputs become more expensive. Often this is accompanied by a rise in wages, but the increased wages make goods even more expensive, which drive up the wages further. And so the circle goes on and on. And it's important to keep in mind that even things like increased taxes, increased shipping costs, or any other costs that affect the overall cost of the product can have an inflationary effect. And right now, what's going on in some areas, particularly in the Silicon Valley area and all the technology companies, because the job market is so tight, their wages are going up very fast. And so it drives inflation from the other side because their wages are going up to get skilled people because there's a lot of competition right now. The cost of their products are going up. So it's kind of the same thing, but either wages or the cost of the goods can go on. But, it's really important. So speaking of taxes, the next time that your congressperson says or the president says, we're only going to tax the corporations, right? That doesn't work like that. Those taxes come back to you in the form of increased prices. So no matter how you raise the prices, one way or another, it comes back to the consumer. This whole cycle has a lot of really difficult side effects to it, particularly in those on the lower end of the wage scale, and most especially for those living on a fixed income, such as a pension or Social Security. For low wage earners, even a small increase in prices has kind of this oversized effect on their total cost of living because they probably didn't have a lot of extra money to begin with. So a quick example, if your family's food costs increased by, say, $50 a week, which is realistic these days, it's annoying, right? But it's probably tolerable if your normal food budget was already $800 or $1,000 a week or something. And just the price of food just amazes me sometimes. But nonetheless, I know a lot of people that spend in that size budgets for a full-size family. A couple adults, a few kids. And so figure $50 over $1,000. Okay, it's noticeable, but it's not the end of the world. But if your food budget was, barely like $400 a week, that increase may be more than you possibly can afford, even if you're getting SNAP or other benefits, because that's what is it, 50 out of 400? That's 1 part in 8. That's a 12.5% increase in your price. So even though theoretically, there's only a 12.5, quote unquote, or I'm sorry, 8.5. Let's do this again. No, 8.5% rate of inflation. It's the number coming up next. I would have had it in my head. 8.5 rate of inflation. That's an average of many different sectors, and food and fuel and transportation in particular are going up even more than the overall rate of inflation. So, if you're on a fixed income, especially one where there's adjustments, one of the big problems is those adjustments probably only occur once every year. That's how Social Security works it, and that makes it really difficult because right now, I forget when they do the inflation adjustment. It may be the end of the fiscal year, calendar year, but right now you have months to go before another adjustment comes around. So it's a really very difficult situation. You just, you're faced kind of with the option. You either have to cut back unless you're able to work part-time or do something to get more money coming in each month. So as I mentioned before, currently in the US, the inflation rate, this is being recorded in April of 2022. So in March of 2022, the latest recorded inflation rate was 8.5%. That's way better. Argentine right now, for Argentinians, their inflation rate is, ready for this, 52.3% right now. So that means in a year, prices will be up by half. which means if you didn't get a 50% raise, you're falling behind the cost of living, right? But 8.5% is still pretty significant, like we just showed. That can make, even for a very small food budget, a $50 a week increase in prices. So that means if this continues next year, you can expect to be paying that everything you buy will be on average about 8.5% more expensive. Plus there's secondary increases, right? We're talking about taxes, sales tax, our favorite sales tax. Sales tax usually is on the total cost of the amount that you buy. New York has certain exemptions for certain foods. This is coming from New York, as I remind you. But in New York, if it's for prepared food at all, so if you buy beans, right, then they're considered a basic commodity and necessary for subsistence, and they don't tax it. That's not true in all states, by the way. But so they don't tax that. But if I buy beans from the deli counter where they've made them, then I pay tax on it as a prepared food. So if you normally buy, just to use an example number, let's say you buy $100 of taxable food. Well, then you have to pay $8 of tax because, yes, the general tax rate in most of New York is around 8% or higher. So now you're paying $108 total for that basket of food of not just veggies and things like that. Your potato chips, your everything that the state has decreed to be prepared foods. So next year, that same food on average will cost you $108.50. So it's up that 8.5%. So that's the $8.50. But you'll also be paying more in taxes because now you're paying taxes on $108.50. So now you're paying $8.68 in tax, another 68 cents in tax. So your total food bill now is $117.18 for what used to cost you $108.50 last year, a total increase of $10.18, right? You do that across a couple different categories, and that really starts to add up pretty quick. So what can you do about it? Well, right, there's a few options because, we've been doing, what are we talking about right along here? Goal setting and envisionment. So we're very well prepared as how we can evaluate what options kind of fit the best into our lifestyle and life choices. If you're financially set at the moment, congratulations to you. That's excellent. But now is the time to talk to your financial advisor and about the amount of money that you have saved and what impact inflation will have upon it. Maybe it's your current lifestyle is such that inflation doesn't really affect it at all for the foreseeable future. That's, even double kudos to you. That's excellent. But I'll just, as we all know, planning in advance is endlessly easier than trying to recover. If you get behind in things, especially if you're living off of investments, also now if you have to dig into principal, there's a double whammy. You're getting less money than you expected from your investments, and the principal's lower, so you're getting even less money. So I would encourage you, even if you think you're set now is a really good time to talk to your financial planner and think very carefully what you want to do as the cost of goods keep going up. So if you're partially set and perhaps working part-time for some extra money or for vacations or things like that, maybe it's worth putting in a few extra hours each week and or asking for a raise or trying to do both. And of course, as we talked about before, asking for more money usually goes better if you can offer more value. So now is also a good time to consider if you have any other skills that you can bring to the job or perhaps learn a new trade or skill. And if you're really good at negotiating, right, you can offer to do something else and get them to train you for it too, and then pay you more money. So just things you can possibly do if you're kind of in that borderline thing where you're kind of set, but you're kind of working to make extra money, you might want to consider putting a little more money away if you can. But what if you're already living frugally or perhaps just cannot go out and get another part-time job? Maybe you have medical reasons, location, whatever. Of course, we'll have another whole episode coming on this because of internet, right? Location really shouldn't be too much of an issue for a lot of skill sets. And we'll talk about that another time. But say that you're just stuck right now, that you've already kind of cut back and really can't add any, it's not easy to get more income in. This is where some very careful self-evaluation and goal setting will be especially valuable. Because first off, if you're currently living the life that you're satisfied with, right, then super congratulations to you. That's just great. Just make sure that with the inflation, that you still have enough money, even if you have to live frugally, but you have enough money to maintain your current lifestyle. That's really important because inflation is one of those little problems that comes in little cat's feet. You hardly notice it. This is up 10 cents, that's up 15 cents. And all of a sudden the grocery bill's up a couple bucks, and all of a sudden you realize everything's up a little bit. You really kind of have to keep track of it. If you thought about doing a budget at some point, now might be a good time to do it. If you live a cash life, nothing wrong with that. You can always use the envelope system. Take some money, stick it in an envelope, say, oh, I'm going to spend $75 a week in groceries. You put $75 a week in the envelope, you get done paying for groceries, you have $6 left, life is good. 2 months from now, you go pay groceries and you realize, wow, I have to take another $2 out of my pocket. It's just a real good reminder, an easy way to keep track of how much money you're spending and how much things are costing. So, if you can just make sure, be careful that you can maintain your current lifestyle. But what if you're dissatisfied with how you're living now? Well, then it's time for some serious soul searching and, of course, goal setting and envisionment work, right? That's what we primarily do here. And so, and this is true no matter where you are financially. If you're really happy and content with the way things are, then that's great. Doesn't matter whether you have a lot of money coming in or a little bit of money. But if you're not really happy with where you are, then it's time to change it, right? And who drives the change? You drive the change, right? I just saw a saying today in the paper. It said, life is not determined by what you want. Life is determined by the choices you make, right? So I think that's really important. Life is determined by the choices that you make. And there you have it. It's 2 lines, sums it up pretty clearly. And, it's also been said, contentment comes from being happy with what you have. And another really important thing, if what you envision going forward is something extremely grandiose and you've never really worked to prepare yourself for having that lifestyle, well, then you're going to be very disappointed with what you have. But if you've always wanted to live just a comfortable but not extraordinary life, and you're living a comfortable but not extraordinary life, then you're living to what you wanted, and you'll be contented with what you have. And so it's super important. Again, contentment comes from being happy with what you have. And being happy comes from setting the proper goals and envisioning the proper life that you want. So, I kind of fooled us a little bit by using the threat of inflation as a major disruptor of our lives. But, if you look around the news, that's all you see in the news. They're saying that's what all the headlines are about. It's, and it is very concerning at a very gut level. It's quite concerning, prices going up and I live on a fixed income perhaps, or, I'm supposed to retire in 2 years. My company's been talking about maybe it's time for you to retire, Smith, getting older now. And I saw an amazing article on ageism. I meant to include in this and just forgot. But a lot of the very progressive liberal papers are talking about how it's time to kick most of these Congress people out. The senators specifically, I'm sorry. The senators out, they're too old, on and on and on. And there was some very serious ageism comments. If I had used that in terms of race or ethnicity or any other metric, I would immediately be called up on charges. But these papers feel it's just fine to talk about old people that way. And that into itself is pretty enlightening. And like I said, we're going to do another whole episode, or a course actually, possibly, on recognizing and not tolerating ageism. But so I'm reading this, and they're all trying to tell everybody, just the headlines are always that there's always this big disruption coming, right? There's always, if it's not inflation, it's going to be this. It's going to be food shortages. It's going to be global warming. It's going to be the police are out of control, that there's not enough police, that, it's too hot, it's too cold. They're coming up with things always because that's what sells news. And, there'll always be another disruption waiting for you to catch your attention. However, we have some very powerful tools to help us not only navigate inflation, of course, not only inflation, but all the other things that arise in life. Because, don't misunderstand me, if you're really strapped for cash and really have no extra money, right, any increases in costs are a serious threat. And I would encourage you, go seek, there's a lot of places you can get aid, and I would absolutely search them out. Go to your church, go to the government, go to wherever, get as much aid as you can if you're truly in a serious situation. But, for many of us, we have a lot of options available, from learning new skills that may allow us to earn a little more money, or even just bartering for something that's, of interest or value to somebody else, right? We went through this a couple of weeks ago, right? Learn how to use a computer or a smartphone, and then you can get your other friends who are good at baking or whatever and make you really awesome desserts in exchange for tutoring them. Whatever skills you have, leveraging them. And just, it doesn't have to be that you're getting cash in necessarily, but working as a community and helping each other out, that's really the first step in getting through any difficult situation. And so, remember that you play the most significant role in deciding if you want to be happy or not. And also you have the most effect, the most ability to change the things to bring more happiness into your life. Back to our inflation example, if you want to listen to all the headlines and feel everything is hopeless, that's certainly a choice. You can. You can shake your head and say, tis, tis, tis. Look at that, $1.99 for a pound of green beans on sale. And that's a real price, by the way. It's kind of good gracious. But you know what? The other way of looking at it is, wow, green beans are $1.99. I was going to plant 2 rows of green beans. Maybe I'll plant 4 rows of green beans and sell them to my neighbors or barter them with my neighbors or whatever you want to do. And, and just, it's up to you how you want to view a situation and how you want to react to the situation. Obviously, at this stage of our lives, it's kind of unlikely that we're going to run out and get, some advanced medical degree and start doing breakthrough research. We talked about this before. The goals have to be reasonable. They can be stretch goals. They can be really hard goals. But, if your goal is, I'm going to learn how to flap my arms and learn how to fly, you're probably going to be disappointed. But we do have the ability, complete and total ability, to look into our own future and plot any course that we want and try as hard as we want to make that become our reality. Right? There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And there really isn't. You may have to temper your reality a little bit. And we talked about that before too. But, within the constraints of all that you have at your disposal, there's a lot of things that you can still do. And if you can do those things and attain those things, then you'll be satisfied. And if you're satisfied, then that'll bring you contentment and happiness. So you really are in control of things, more so than the news would like you to think. So our answer to inflation, right? Just same as always. Inflation, all the other bad things in the world. It's pretty much always the same answer. It's up to each one of us to either be a leader or a follower in everything that we do. We don't have to be a public figure or a politician. It's as simple as being interested in the world around us, setting goals for ourselves, and then living our life in a way that those goals can be realized, right? We can lead ourselves to a place of happiness, or we can follow all the naysayers saying, oh, things are miserable, and say, oh, I guess I should be miserable. Or we can say, I'm sorry things are miserable for you, but I see goodness and opportunities, and I'm going to pursue that. If we're doing things that aren't making us happy, then in most cases, we have the ability to either change what we're doing or change our attitude about what we're doing. And don't forget, that's a valid response too. Right now, I'm working a job that's not awesome. I mean, it has a lot of good things to it. I work with a lot of good people, but there's a lot of things to it that are very trying. I can either let that gnaw at me every day, every waking and sleeping moment, or I can say, wow, this part of it's bad, but I work with really awesome people, and they pay me okay, and they give me flexibility to work at home. Overall, it may not be perfect, far from perfect, but it's really not a bad thing. That's strictly attitude-based. Nothing about the job changed. It's what I want to focus on. So we just need to believe in ourselves and to keep a positive attitude and envision the outcomes we want. And that'll help guide us to make decisions to create the life that we desire. So good luck on your journey to start rewriting your own future, choose to succeed, and to see all the good in, of course, to never give up. So as a reminder, to support, where did it go? There it is. To support Ukraine or support whatever cause you want. This is the shortcut. As always, it takes you right to the congressional, I can't even remember the page right now. It's the congressional office. Thank you very much. It takes you to the congressional office where you can enter your address and find your senators. That's, senators are easy to find. They're statewide, but also your representative. That sometimes is a little more challenging. And so if you put in your zip, and my senator in particular wants the zip +4, so you have to know your whole zip code, and it'll take you right there. And from there, I should actually write a little blurb to do this because I just wrote them again last week and I realized there's an extra step I forgot. Once you get to the senator's official congressional page, senator and representatives official congressional page, usually they have a link to a web page that the senator themselves put up. And when you go to that page, usually there is where you find the contact me form. And so then you can just go in, fill out the reason you're writing them, put in all the lovely things you want to say to them. And actually, I said I was going to do this before, and I should really break down and do it, is to do, I'm writing down right now, how to write a letter to your congressional representative. There's a couple of techniques that make it more effective, and we'll go through those and do some example letters. And so there, 7em.link/Congress, and it'll whisk you right off to the congressional office. As I said before, remember, acting even in really small ways, and especially acting in a manner consistent with your core beliefs, you'll find you feel a lot less threatened by the world and a lot more involved and confident in all your actions and all the things that you do. And then to me right now, the very most important one, of course, please don't forget about the war in Ukraine. It is still raging. I know the news keeps trying to push other things in front of it. Still, Putin has upped it even further, and more amazingly, he attacked a bunch of people, a bunch of areas and people on Orthodox Easter, just to be a real pain. And it's totally out of control. You can this is just links to other pages that accept donations. There's a lot of them. Like I said, remember, one of the best ways to care for yourself is to care for others. It takes your mind off your own issues, which is step one, that's good. And then also makes you feel good about helping others, which is step two, that's good. And then step three, which is very good, actually does help others. So it's good all around. And if you're able, so please check it out at ukr7.com, right? That's UKR like Ukraine. 7 is in 7 every minute. And of course, as always, it's not a promo from our website. It's just a bunch of links. You go there. I get nothing out of it. I don't track you, nothing else. You come in, you read through the list of websites, and you can go to different things. And just a quick side note in general, I'm doing a number of kind of really pretty minor things, right? And so there's a couple that I do to support Ukraine, right? I told you about most of them, I believe. I have a one-person rally at least one time a week. I had to cut back for other reasons, but still at least once a week, I'm out by the roadside with my big sign that says support Ukraine. And there's a couple things that come from that. Some people who try and put it out of their minds, they see it and it forces them to think about it a little bit, and hopefully gets them to think about some of the suffering that's going on and gets them more motivated to be a little more proactive about it. The other thing is, a lot of people blow their horns or wave or give me a thumbs up. And the neat thing about that is, thank you very much, right? It really psychs you up when you're standing out there in the rain and it's 28 degrees and somebody blows the horn and gives you a big smile. That's nice. But more importantly is all the people around them hear that and they see that and they go, wow, that person looks like a reasonable person. And they believe in supporting Ukraine. Maybe I should look into it more. So it helps spread it around a little bit. And so that's really important. But so I do the rally one time a week. I wear a little pin that says Peace for Ukraine that I was given. And I made my poster designs, the ones that say support Ukraine, and some others available for anyone. They're on that same support page, I believe. They're available for anyone to take and use. I write my Congress people, not often, but repeatedly, right? And in the donation page itself, of course, right? Those are all pretty minor things. It's not like I'm doing stuff every day. They're all just kind of little minor steps. But when enough people do really minor things or pretty minor things, a funny thing happens. It becomes a pretty major thing. We've seen this before in some other things, but it can be whatever cause is important to you. If you can get other people to do it and you do it consistently, if it's a cause that you strongly believe in, I would encourage you to support it regularly. And that's really important. Support it regularly in any legal way you feel comfortable with, right? Because I'm out, I go and I stand by the roadside, and it's usually around the same time on the same day. It's the one where I am always there. And there's a lot of regular people there. And they go by, and I recognize some of the bus drivers. There's a whole bunch of people I recognize. And every week they blow their horns, and every week I wave to them. But the really important thing is all the other people see me as kind of like, wow, I've seen this dude out here before. What's he doing? It must be pretty important to him to be out here, on a sunny day, on a rainy day. It doesn't matter. He's still out here. So if it matters to him, maybe I should check it out a little bit. So if there's something you believe in strongly, like I say, support it regularly in any legal way that you feel comfortable with. It's super important. As always, be true to yourself and live the life aligned with your true goals and feelings. Be aware and have empathy for others. Try to, respond to everybody with kindness, encouragement. You may find new opportunities for friendship and growth. So that's it for the week. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week and thanks for visiting. Remember always to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. And see you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.